Pastor Skeet,
Yes.
do you recommend taking the vaccine?
I have a document that was signed by 25,000 Seventh-day Adventists in 138 countries, by 1,929 pastors, and by 4,164 medical professionals. And they are asking that we reconsider our stance. And I would move that this be added to the agenda. I think it is extremely important.
Okay, we got to talk about this. Some people in the comments are saying the Seventh-day Adventist Church, leaders of the church, need to apologize to the members because of their position on the Fauci Ouchi.
Conviction on me. Should I take this vaccine? If the Lord tells you to take it, you take it. Don't be too afraid.
But some of our men, during a time of crisis, I will say they actually failed many of our members here. Okay, we're on YouTube. We're going to use some code words. I've had videos taken down. I had to deal with serious bans from YouTube before, to the point where I almost lost the channel because of that. So I'm going to use some words. I'm going to edit some things in my video just to keep the word out because of the censorship gurus. But having said that, some of the members are feeling some type of way, and I do too, by the way. Even during the whole entire debacle, I was asking myself, like, why is our church not positioning themselves strong against this, which will bring us peace and assurance in our decisions? I understand this. I'm for it. In part, I'm against this. So let's begin by listening to this video of one of my favorites, Randy Skeet, and his answer. And then we're going to come back, take a look at a few things about the church and documents and so on, and share some thoughts at the end. I'm going to have to do some editing in these videos because of the word, and we are on YouTube. This is something that is still being censored. Channels are getting banned as a result of speaking about this. That's part of the reason why I don't make too many videos about it anymore, because I've almost lost 2 channels because of this. So I'm somewhat being very careful here. If I want to keep my friends and my discussion, if I want to have a relationship with you consistently and make sure the church channel doesn't get banned by YouTube, this is one of the subjects you have to be very, very careful with. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. All right, let's move on. Let's take a listen to his answer, which I thought was somewhat thoughtful, but I still have a lot of questions.
Next question.
I don't believe this one's exactly biblical, but perhaps you could make it biblical.
I don't know.
Pastor Skeet,
Yes.
do you recommend taking the
Oh. All right. Maybe I should pray again. Okay. The Seventh-day Adventist Church put out a statement last year telling members it's an individual decision you have to make. The church believes in following the health principles. The church also believes in following science that does not conflict with the Bible. So you have to decide whether you do your own research. There's several, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, another thing. Which one you do your research, which has a greater percentage of success. You do your research. You also listen to established scientists who have their own concerns. Don't just listen to those who make the vaccine. Listen to the other side so you get a balanced view. Then you claim Psalm 32 verse 8. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. You read Psalm 25 verse 4. Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy paths. You ask God, place a conviction on me. Should I take it? If the Lord tells you to take it, you take it. Don't be too afraid. Remember Paul in Acts 28? He landed on an island and a venomous snake bit him. Are you with me? He shook it off. Why? Because he was about God's business. And so if you consider the vaccine venomous, you have a God.
That was that was good and bad counsel right there. He said something that is biblically true, but at the same time, he said something that was also false. I love these men and I don't hate these men. Like you said, I have many videos with Randy Skeet and Elder Ted Wilson, and I will never hate these men. I do have enough grace to understand during a time of crisis, sometimes we make bad decisions under pressure and we say things that we oftentimes thought was right. Because I believe there's room for growth, right? In a crisis, character is revealed. This right here was not right. That was not a correct statement. I wish he never said that. I really wish they never said this right here.
Are you with me? He shook it off. Why? Because he was about God's business. And so if you consider the
difference here was that the snake bit him. It wasn't really his choice to be bitten by the snake. So that's a huge misapplication of that passage. It's a huge misapplication. When it comes to the Fauci Ouchi, we were recommended, affirmed, in some cases encouraged. I've listened to even certain SDA pastors, Eric Walsh. There were a few of them that had a number of podcasts that they were running online. They were all recommending it.
Vaccine is safe. The science shows it's safe. Great work has been done in nations like Israel, where they have larger percentages of their population, and we're not seeing any pattern of problems from. The data itself is also very reassuring, and most importantly, it is very effective. It is greater than about somewhere around 95% effective.
Yeah, this is one of the panels that I'm talking about with Eric Walsh and the rest of these many Seventh-day Adventist doctors was on this panel, and they were all pro Fauci Ouchi. And I want you to hear the remark. And actually, I did put a comment below addressing how imbalanced of a thing this was.
We have the health methods, but the world does not. And some of these therapies and things that we do are not ideal, but they are what is best. Even in a study from the UK around veganism and vegetarianism, there was an 80% reduction in coronavirus severe cases or whatever that study showed. But 20% is a lot of people. If 20 million Adventists who are perfect vegans, which most Adventists don't eat perfectly, even present truth ones eat.
And part of his argument when I listened to this was because, we don't take care of our health, it's best we go along with the Fauci Ouchi. And I was like, oh, why would you guys have this discussion at a time when we're still not sure about the side effects of this thing? And actually, I put a remark below, and I said, this is 2 years ago, and I was still very skeptical. I wasn't sure. And what I said was, I appreciate this discussion. It's somewhat enlightened. However, I have only heard one side of the issue. Only Adventist doctors that are pro. You get it? It would have been a good idea to have on the panel 2 or 3 anti, you get it, doctors to share the other side of the story, so that the panel could better balance the perception. But the answer that he gave me was pretty much it doesn't matter and so on. And somebody responded, 2 wrongs don't make it right. And again, this was written by Pastor Meyer. So I asked the question just recently. I wonder if you've had a change of mind now since the facts have come out. So. And again, we can go on and on. All I can simply say is this. Our men were wrong. They were wrong. I did put out a short video on my Luke and Live channel, and I'll let you listen to that, because part of my pushback was, hey, everything was safe and effective. Safe and effective, they were told. But that's not the case at all. Take a listen.
Yeah, that's what we were told. And every politician and every scientist, every doctors, every churchman, we were told, and even the nurses, we were being told, safe and effective. Safe and effective, and let's not question anything. You dare not. Well, here's the thing. Things are changing now. The narrative is changing. And what was considered safe and effective now, we went from 100%, and I'm going to show you a video that is proving things to be slightly different than what it was proposed to be. Let's just put it that way. Watch this video.
Highly effective.
Ah, yeah. How about that one?
They were wrong. They were wrong. But I do understand during the time, not knowing what we know now, sometimes you make bad decision. And I don't want to use what is known as presentism, the current knowledge to condemn the behaviors of the past. I don't want to do that. But I think there was enough information out there for the church to say, no, we will not encourage this to our members. Make your own decision indeed. Here, for as much as I love Pastor Randy Skeet, I have to say he was wrong right here. It's no condemnation. He was wrong. He should not have recommended this. In essence, he did. Even though he's taking a biblical position, but he's taking a biblical position while compromising the conscience. Here, that was wrong. Can we admit that and still love each other? Yes.
Vaccine venomous, you have a God who can take care of you, but seek his direction first. Are you with me? God keeps his promises. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I have to go to Fiji in July for 2 weeks. Now I have a choice. I can go with no vaccine and I enter 14 days of quarantine before I begin a 2-week revival. Or I can take a vaccine and go straight into the revival, so I'm still talking to God. Your choice with God's direction, and God does not fail to guide his people. He may tell you, take it. He may tell him, don't take it.
I wonder what he will say today when so many of the members' health has been impacted in a very negative way as a result of that. Although we know correlation doesn't always mean causation, whatever. But the science is out there. The facts are here now. We can't say there's no connection. There really is. There really is. So I just wonder if he will change his position. I wonder if he will at least say, I was wrong. I apologize. I didn't know. I was under pressure, which is a very normal thing. And again, Advent Messenger had a really potent document here. And before we listen to Elder Ted Wilson, strongly urging not to put this on the agenda, which is talking about the Fauci Ouchi. He strongly urged not to put this on the agenda, which I thought was also wrong. It was also wrong. Now, it didn't have to become a doctrinal issue, but the church needed to be clear about this. And I think some churches outside of the Adventist faith took a bold position, and they were right. But some of our men, during a time of crisis, I will say, they actually failed many of our members here. Like, can we at least admit this? For as much as I am for organization and conference, and I won't change that position anytime soon, it's okay to say not every time GC, NAD, the unions and so on, they don't always make the right decisions. Sometimes they do fail the people. Sometimes they make mistakes. They need to be held accountable. They owe us apologies. They need to change their position. And we need to be gracious to understanding these are just failing men. They don't know everything. And this is why we have to trust the Lord. We cannot put our confidence in princes. We cannot trust fully in men. It's also a warning for us. While we should love, work with them, care for them, unite with them, be aware. Sometime they will fail you. Sometime the arm of the flesh will fail you, friends. And that's what happened here under pressure. And I think when this man, Jonathan Zirkle, began to ask some questions, the pressure was on. The pressure was on. He's asking for the church to re-examine their position about this. That was a good move, though. Even though at the moment he looked like he was a bug, he was doing the right thing.
These positions that the church has taken, many people have suffered. I have a document that was signed by 25,000 Seventh-day Adventists in 138 countries, by 1,929 pastors, and by 4,164 medical professionals. And they are asking that we reconsider our stance on vaccination. And I would move that this be added to the agenda. I think it is extremely important for...
Yeah, so the request was not granted, and I think they made a huge mistake. It should have been added. It could have saved and changed the course of the church. And a lot of the backlash that our people have is legitimate. It's legitimate. We have to admit that. Conference or no conference, it doesn't matter here. The truth is the truth. The church did not make the right decision. Before you listen to Elder Ted Wilson, it's good to understand what the position of the church has been. They were very clear. Reiterate, this is according to Adventist News. It says the decision to be immunized or not is the choice of each individual. So they want to make it clear, guys, that was your decision, right? That was your decision. And should be taken in consultation with one's healthcare provider. Personal research on the subject is important. We ultimately rely on following biblical health practices and the spirit of prophecy and following God's leading in our lives, which will bring us peace and assurance in our decisions. I understand this. I'm for it. In part, I'm against this. Here is why. When people were losing their jobs and they wanted religious exemption from the church, there were many churches and there were many conferences, even the one that I work for, they turned them down. They did. That was wrong. I remember getting those emails. I was reading the emails and I was like, wow. So you're not willing to even give religious exemption? Part of the reasons for it was liabilities and lawsuits and so on. They wanted to avoid these things. And some of the members had to go to different denominations to get exemptions. Sunday keeping churches to get exemptions, religious exemptions. That was wrong. Our leaders did not make the right choice right here. They should have stood for the people of God. This was a time of crisis. We were under pressure. We were not sure. We didn't know what was going on. And those of us who were skeptical should have been protected by the leaders of the church. But unfortunately, this did not happen. That was wrong. I think we should hold our men accountable. Do I think we should jump ship, start a self-supportive ministry, and start calling the church Babylon? I don't think so. That's not Christ's way of doing things. I think we can fight and address the issues inside of the church. But some of you who wants to live and start a whole new ministry, I mean, that's your call. You want to find an online ministry, you want to find a self-supportive ministry to follow and get rid of the church because they made this huge mistake here, which is a huge mistake. You can do that. But I don't work like that. Well, here's the thing. And I think this is kind of part of the failures that the church still has to respond to this and share a clear position on this. But remember though, the choice was our choice. We can't blame the church for this. But they did not advocate for those of us who said, no, I'm standing against this. I've even rose my voice, actually spoke against it even in my church one time. So many of the leaders were not happy, but there were some of them who said, thank you for saying something. But what I did say was, guys, the church should be advocating for people who do not want this thing. They should be giving religious exemption. And part of the pushback was that, James, this is not a matter of conscience. We know a time is coming between, religious institution will be passing laws to go against our conscience. This is when the church will stand. And I was like, well, if you can't stand for this now, against this now, how can we be certain you're going to stand in a time of serious crisis? But again, I got a short video to share with you. Let me first take a listen to what Elder Ted Wilson says, and then I'm going to share this short video with you. It's good to keep something in mind. The SDA church at a time of crisis, historically speaking, has not always done the right thing. That's just a fact. You can love your church and love the truth and embrace the people, pray for them in responsible position, work with them as much as possible. But keep in mind, in a time of crisis, it's been shown, historically speaking, they do not always make the right decisions. They do not. The leaders of the church, the conferences, many times they fail the body of Christ. Keep that in mind.
Regarding vaccinations, since it has been seconded, it is fair enough for us to vote on that. But I want to strongly urge, and I have the consent and agreement of my fellow officer, Ayrton Kohler, my other fellow officer, Paul Douglas, that we stand united in asking this body not to put that issue on the agenda.
This was bad, counsel. Bad, bad, bad. I wish he had never said that. I wish he had never said that. And I agree with some of you that are speaking, because you're saying, man, the church owes us an apology. They do. They do. That should have been on the agenda and voted against. And the statement needed to be re-examined and revised. A change had to come. And the people of God needed that assurance at that moment. That was wrong. I want you to hear what he had to say, which is a guy that I really love, Dr. Conrad Vine. He got himself in trouble before because of his views, but I did share a video about this. But I want you to understand what the SDA Church had to say, what he says about the SDA Church in a time of trouble. Watch this.
And anger and backbiting among Adventists. I'm speaking the truth here. I travel all over the world. What I speak is the absolute truth here. And so we do not respond well to persecution. We have never responded well to persecution. And perhaps most tragically, in the end-time persecution, and consistent with our historically divided response to persecution, I believe that Adventism will not respond with a united front to the final persecution of God's people. Some may excuse and even justify the persecution of the troublers of Israel. It's good that we worship on Sunday because it's good for the environment. This is giving the earth a rest. This is a secular day of rest for the world, and we can all celebrate Sunday as a world community to give a pause in the never-ending pattern of consumption that's destroying the world's resources. Some Adventists are going to justify pausing on Sunday in the future, probably on environmental grounds. Others are going to accommodate to the end-time persecution. Others yet will reject it, hunker down, and simply wait for the second coming. Nothing in our history indicates that we will have a unified response. If you don't believe me, look at Adventist history.
You know, so, I mean, I'll leave a link to the reaction that I had done to this video, so I would recommend that you check this out. So, that's just the fact. That's just the fact. The church did not make the right call during Pestilence 19 and the Fauci Ouchi. They did not. Many of the leaders did fail. Even the counsel given by Randy Skeet, which is a man that I love and appreciate, he did not give the right counsel. The verses that he was using did not apply. The idea that your God is going to protect you while you're making decisions to destroy, it wasn't right. It wasn't right. Okay, so what could we learn from this? First of all, I remember what Jesus says in Psalms 119. And let me go to the screen here, Psalms 119, and then I want to read something to you. Psalms 119 says, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in princes." It is better to trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in men. Like, it doesn't matter which these men are, friends. Godly men, righteous men, political men, right? Unfortunately, we should be able to trust religious men more than anything, right? But that's not always the case either. This is why we are told it's best to trust in the Lord. And I'll tell you something. I'm so glad for my skepticism. I'm so glad for my doubts and my fears. I think it might have saved my life because I was somewhat for it in the beginning, but I began to do some research. I ended up on a place called Rumble. Man, I didn't know what I was doing. But when I got to this platform, everything was exposed. It was amazing. It really was amazing. And I'll tell you what, I do have a Rumble channel as a result. But when I got to this place here, everything was exposed about what is really, really going on when it comes to the Fauci Ouchi. And I'm so glad I had found Rumble because my mind changed. Remember, the media was lying to us as well. There was a lot of deception in the media. There was a lot of mind-bending manipulation going on. And if you did not escape the echo chamber, you will have been overwhelmed with misinformation. We were misinformed and lied to in the media. There was a lot of pressure, a lot of confusion, and the churches were not sure. Our leaders made a decision that they thought was best at the moment. Still, it was wrong. But I tell you what, man, it wasn't until I escaped the echo chamber and went on Rumble and began to listen to doctors who were not part of the mainstream narrative. That's when I saw it was a whole different world. I was like, oh my Lord, this is serious. It's a whole different world. I thank God for Rumble. Until today, I do. I think I owe part of my health to that because I was this close of going along with it. This close. But praise the Lord, he intervened by giving me some information that I needed to think about. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. So that doesn't mean, so what should we do now? Just go and start our own all-wheat, self-supportive ministries and disconnect from the body and let's start calling the church Babylon? No, I don't think so. But it's good to know that among your leaders, this does happen. Sometimes they do fail. Sometimes they make bad decisions. We should not trust them with all of our hearts. We should trust the Lord. And when they do fail, we should hold them accountable, pray for them, point out their failures, and work with them. That's kind of where I stand when it comes to that. But if you feel like the Lord is calling you to be a modern day Martin Luther, separate from Rome and go out there and do your own thing, do your thing, man. Do what the Lord has laid on your heart. Follow your conviction. That's not what the Lord is calling me to do. So some people are called to work on the inside. There are some of us that the Lord is calling to work on the outside. And it's okay as long as we are all working in the vineyard of the Lord. Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to share my thought and perspective on this. I did hear a lot of comments about it, so I wanted to bring to my position to that. I think there should be an apology. I think there should be some questions. I think as often as we can, these leaders need to be questioned, but they should be respected and loved. They should be giving some grace because they also were under pressure. And let's not forget, if we probably were in their shoes at that moment, under the same pressure, we probably will say the same thing. Some of us, at least. Not all of us, but some of us. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.